and hitting record. And we're recording. So, again, good morning. Thank you for being here. We have a pretty full agenda, and I'm really excited to get started. We have our current MYC, which is our Mayor's Youth Commission members here. We have our current Youth Volunteer Corps Advisory Board members, and then we have some new MYC members. And then we have attendees who just thought it'd be fun to attend and wanted to join us. So, welcome everyone. We ask that you keep your microphone muted, your camera off, unless you're asked to speak or show your face. We will do that later in breakout rooms. So please know that we would like for you to be engaged with our leaders in the breakout room. But for right now, we're going to get started. We have two representatives who will be welcoming everyone, and that is Reagan Brown and Herman Pelia. So thank you guys for being here, and I'm turning it over to Reagan and Herman.
Okay, hello, welcome to our Sustainability and Service Youth Summit. My name is Herman Pelia, and I'm here with Reagan Brown, and we're juniors at Academic Magnet. And this is our, and we've both been on the NYC for 1 year.
The NYC gives people a meaningful voice in developing solutions to youth issues and problems. Commissioners meet with the mayor to provide input, leadership, and ideas on effective solutions to the most pressing issues and problems facing youth. YBC Charleston is one of many affiliates across North America. Their mission is to promote a lifetime commitment to service among youth of Charleston by offering volunteer projects throughout the year and during the summer with the Summer Service Learning Institute. Today, we have NYC and YBC members as panelists and breakout room moderators. Today's summit will include an introduction from Mayor Tecklenburg. Then we will be joined by a few panelists for their discussion on sustainability and service before we move into breakout rooms where we will have a few activities for everyone. Members chose sustainability and service as the topic for today's summit because of their relevance in today's date and age. As youth, we need to be aware of ways we can help the environment and our community.
We would love for all of you to be active and attentive throughout the session so that you can gain the most out of this summit. Please be respectful to the panelists and to keep yourself muted. To participate, you can talk in the chat, and please do not unmute until the breakout room sessions. And remember, please have fun.
Now, we would like to introduce the Mayor of Charleston, Mayor Tecklenburg. Mayor Tecklenburg, you can take it away.
Well, thank you, Regan. Thank you, Harmon. Thanks for setting up this final session of our kind of virtual format this year of our virtual summit, youth summit. And thanks to all the members of my Mayor's Youth Commission and then the members of the Youth Volunteer Corps for your participation, for your input, for your volunteerism, for your good spirit. Thank you for that. And Jennifer with city staff and Mindy, I see, is on the line as well. Thank you all for your work in helping coordinate all this. So, boy, what a timely topic to be talking about sustainability this week. As you all probably recognize, just a couple of days ago was Earth Day. And we only got this one planet, y'all. And frankly, we need to be taking better care of it in the future than your parents and grandparents and past generations have done in the past. And the big matter, as we all know, that's affecting our planet is climate change. And we're on the front line of fighting the impact of climate change right here in Charleston and the Low Country with flooding that we've seen from extreme weather and from the increase in the sea level. So y'all listen to this. Here in Charleston, we've actually been measuring the sea level in Charleston Harbor for over 100 years. And in that time, now this may not sound like a lot, but it's a definitive measurement that the the sea level in our own harbor right here in Charleston has risen about 14 inches, a little over a foot. Oh, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. Well, here's the thing. In the last 20 years, the rate of increase has quadrupled. So it's increasing 4 times faster now than it has over that average of 100 years. So it's very predictable that without some course change, we will see right here in Charleston an additional 2 to 3 feet of sea level rise in your lifetime. In your lifetime. Now, I might be gone by the time 50 more years rolls around, but you'll be around and you're going to see tremendous impacts from sea level rise. And what also been happening with this climate change and the increase in temperature is not just that polar ice is melting and the sea level is rising, but storms like hurricanes are becoming more frequent and more intense. Just 1 degree difference in the surface temperature of the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic, where these storms form, makes an incredible difference in their intensity and in the rate at which they intensify. Add to that, you look around the country over the last couple of years, you see all those fires have been happening out in California and out west and other places. Well, once again, 1 degree difference in temperature makes an incredible difference, something like a 30% difference in the amount of moisture that plant life retains, particularly in more arid environments. And that has led to these wildfires proliferating quicker. And you've seen whole neighborhoods getting burned out and all like that. I mean, the impact, the point I'm trying to make is the impact of climate change is pervasive. It kind of hits you in places where you don't even expect. I mean, at this point, we all kind of expect the sea level rise, but it's happening in other ways too, in terms of the intensity of storms and the intensity and frequency of fires. So, y'all, this is really a big deal. So, I got to admit to you that the city of Charleston for years has been dealing more with the impact and the result rather than the root cause, which is well known since way back in the 1960s when scientists really calculated the future impacts of greenhouse gases and the impact it would have to warm our planet and all the things that we're seeing now. We've known this now for 60, 70 years, and unfortunately have been slow to respond. And now we're almost at a crisis moment for humanity to all come together and put into place those sustainable practices that will reduce our carbon footprint. It's that extra carbon in the atmosphere from mostly from burning fossil fuels that create extra carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Yes, I was a chem major, and it really has created this greenhouse effect for the whole planet Earth, and it's what's been impacting our climate and warming our planet. So we've been busy at work in the last year formulating something called a climate action plan for our city and our region. And it goes to city council in just the May 11th. It's coming to city council for approval. And it's all kinds of things that our city can do to reduce our carbon footprint and our use of energy. Everything from using electric vehicles to changing our building regulations to make buildings more efficient. This is a little surprising because you think about energy loss mostly associated with transportation and cars and autos, but in a city, the biggest source of energy loss is actually in our buildings. So good insulation, good practices with heating and air conditioning, um, tighter building regulations about building a sustainable building to start with. These are all tools in the toolbox that the city can use to reduce our energy loss and to reduce our carbon footprint. So I hope Jennifer maybe before the session is over could put in the chat box a link to our climate action plan. Now, the last thing I'll mention about it, if you go to the end of the climate action plan, there's a whole list of things that we can do as citizens in our everyday life. And you're familiar with many of them, I'm sure, from recycling to just turning the lights out. But there's a really great comprehensive list of things towards the end of the climate action plan that you and your family and your friends can all engage in. I'd challenge you to take a look at that list and see how many of those things that you and your family can do to reduce your carbon footprint. And we can all be a part of saving our planet for generations to come. This is an old expression when I was a kid from the 60s that you want to think globally, think about the big picture, think about the impact to our whole planet, but to act locally. So that means defining those little discrete steps that we all can take to reduce our carbon footprint and turn the tide, so to speak, no pun intended, on the increase of temperature of the planet Earth. Long term, that's what we will all need to do as a human race to make our planet sustainable here on this wonderful planet we enjoy. It's the only one we got. Okay, so the challenge is there before all of us, and particularly I hate to pass the buck to y'all, but as I mentioned, my generation and prior generations, frankly, hadn't done a good enough job of even though we knew this was coming, people were slow to act. They always seem to wait until things get more in a crisis mode, and we're really approaching that over the next 50 to 100 years if we don't turn the tide and become a more sustainable planet. So I didn't mean to be so much on a soapbox this morning, but we've been talking about this a lot with our climate action plan, which involve, by the way, engagement from many citizens, and some of y'all, I bet, participated as well to help formulate that plan. It really is worth taking a look at, and I hope you'll join me. Again, I challenge you. Let's all do our part to help our environment, make this world a better place to live in, and make it possible for future generations to live in, and not have to fight all these impacts of what we're seeing with global climate change. So with that, I'll turn it, I think, back over to Regan and Harmon. Thank you again for the introduction. Sorry if I sounded a little preachy this morning, but I'm pretty passionate about this, and hope y'all are and will be too. Thank you, Harmon. Thank you, Regan.
No problem. Thank you so much. We're ahead of schedule, so
good.
Yeah, so you didn't have to feel rushed at all.
Okay.
Thank you for your introduction. And now we're gonna introduce our moderators, Lily Bluestein, Molly Marino, and Becca White. And also our panelists for today are Andy Sternett from Wagner and Ball and Dutch Dialogues, Ashley Zalabak from the South Carolina Aquarium, Maddie Roberts from the College of Charleston Sustainable Fashion Club, and Sylvie Bale from the Second Chance Bikes. And we would like to begin with Andy Sternett.
Guys, I want to hold off for just a second because I think we might be waiting for a couple of our panelists to jump on. So we have Ashley and Andy, but I think we're still waiting on Sylvie and Maddie. But just before we get started with that, Mayor, I have a question. So one thing that we've talked about is to be more sustainable, you can ride your bicycle. Can you tell them about what's going on with the West Ashley pedestrian bike pathway?
Yes, absolutely. We're you may have noticed if you've driven over the West Ashley Bridge lately that there's some like track machinery in the marsh. And so what they're doing is they're making sure that the pathway that we're planning for our new bike ped bridge will be in the right spot, and the pilings will support it correctly and all like that. So that's a good sign that we are under design. We have some folks that are getting us to what they call 30% of the design, figure out what the bridge is going to, where it's going to be, what it's going to look like. And then this fall, we'll issue a final contract to a kind of consortium of designers and builders. It'll be the last contract we'll have to issue for the final design and construction of the Ashley River crossing, we call it, the separate bike ped bridge that will connect West Ashley and downtown near the Medical University. So we're very excited about it. It will create terrific connections along with other connections planned by our bike ped group committee. They're designating certain streets in the city that will be primary bicycle and pedestrian pathways and all connecting long term. Our system was built not thinking too much about bicycles and other ways of getting around. And now, frankly, we're having to play catch up and do that. In addition to that, we've been working hard to get an improved mass transit system started in Charleston, and we'll be requesting some federal assistance funding in order to put into place what we're calling low country rapid transit. The first line of which will run from up near Somerville, actually start at the fairgrounds and run to the medical district in downtown Charleston, so that commuters won't have to, will be able to easily get to work and not rely on their cars so much. We want to reduce the number of cars that are on the highway. It's another long-term way to be more sustainable and to reduce our carbon footprint. So good progress is being made on all that. These kinds of things, unfortunately, don't happen overnight. They take a lot of planning, a lot of engineering, a lot of funding, but we have them teed up to where they can happen, and they will happen. So while we got another minute and waiting on the other two panelists to show up, I just wanted to thank Andy Sternad with Wagner and Ball. He'll speak to some of their efforts here in the city. They really help coordinate what we called the Dutch dialogues in conjunction with the government of the Netherlands, the Dutch. And those guys have more experience of dealing with water, managing water, and dealing with floodwater than anybody in the world. They're the true experts, and Andy helped to bring all the pieces together for us to bring the benefit of their knowledge and expertise to Charleston, South Carolina. And we've really pivoted, Andy, I think, as a city in our mentality about managing water because of you and your firm and the Dutch dialogues. So I want to thank you for that and acknowledge you for that. So it's really terrific that you'd be willing to be with us here this morning. And Ashley, I could say similar accolades about the South Carolina Aquarium. Y'all, I don't know how many of y'all been to the aquarium lately. It's a great experience and all like that, but they do so much more for our community in terms of science and thinking about ways to protect our ecology and our environment. The whole team at the South Carolina Aquarium, science-based, knowledge-based, so supportive of our environment. They're just a remarkable team, and the College of Charleston has been a great partner as well with us. And so anyway, I just want to thank all the panelists who are taking their time to serve on this panel this morning and share their expertise and knowledge with us. Oh, and I see Maddie has arrived. Welcome, Maddie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I thought that was a good connection to some of the sustainable efforts that the youth can take as maybe ride their bicycle to school one day or a couple of days and just kind of save on some car transportation. So thank you for that.
Yep.
And then, so our moderators, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you guys. We're still waiting on Sylvie, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We are right at that starting point. So, all right, guys, you can take it away.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Lily Bluestein, and I'm a representative with YVC.
And I'm Becca White, and I'm a representative with the Mayor's Youth Commission.
And I'm Molly Marino.
And it is our pleasure to moderate this panelist discussion. If you have any questions for our panelists, please put those in the chat box and we'll try to address as many questions as we can. But first, we'd like to give each panelist a couple of minutes to introduce themselves. So whoever would like to start.
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead, Maddie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Roberts. I am a College of Charleston senior, graduating in 2 weeks. Going to graduate with a degree in business administration with a concentration in entrepreneurship. And I founded the Sustainable Fashion Club at the College of Charleston last September. So it has been a roller coaster ride, figuring everything out, and it's been a blast. And I've been really grateful to kind of bring the Charleston community together, at least the students, in regards to sustainable fashion and just kind of educating, what is really going on in the fashion industry. Thank you for having me.
After you, Ashley.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everybody. I'm so excited to be here in my bedroom here right behind me. It's kind of fun to be on Zoom. I don't know if I call it fun anymore, but excited to be with you guys, even if it is electronically. So I am an educator at the South Carolina Aquarium, and I've been working there for about 10 years now. And I actually graduated from the College of Charleston in 2011 with a degree in marine biology. Didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with that, but knew I was really passionate about marine biology, passionate about the environment, gotten involved in a lot of clubs and organizations at CFC that had to do with sustainability. And then really found my passion at the aquarium through education. So I'll kind of be talking through that perspective today of, knowledge is power, and how can we, educate the youth and educate the next generation of those environmental sustainabilists and specialists that are going to be, out in our world someday and making difference. So I'm excited to represent the aquarium today and talk to you guys more about what we do to help sustainability in the community and inspire conservation of the natural world.
And good morning. My name is Andy Sterned, and I'd just like to say off the top, thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. And it's great to see you again, too, this morning. I am an architect and urban designer at a firm called Wagner and Ball. We're in New Orleans, Louisiana. And it kind of atypical for an architect. You think about buildings, designing buildings and rooms and spaces. Part of our practice is thinking about cities and how cities need to adapt and change to the big problems we face. And that's what I'm really passionate about, is how we address these big long-term problems and begin to take steps today. And I think the key first step there is really working together. And that sounds like a little boring, maybe, but that's really credit to the mayor for bringing everyone together in the city over the last few years to start addressing these long-term, really hard challenges that we don't have answers for. Things like sea level rise and big changes in the environment that will affect the way we live. So we work together with a lot of partners around the world, including the Dutch, like the mayor mentioned, and together with a lot of local people and communities to try to figure out solutions, ideas for how we'll live in a more sustainable way going forward. I just want to throw out one term at the beginning here that maybe others can respond to as we go, which is actually moving beyond sustainability. And I think that's just a starting point. And the term I'd like to throw out is regenerative thinking or regeneration. Something that's not only sustaining us, but that's giving back to the environment and to the cities and to our communities. So I think we should actually start thinking about that next step and even challenge ourselves to go further. But looking forward to talking about that with y'all this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sylvia, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself as well.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of difficulties this morning. So my name is Sylvie Bale. I'm the Executive Director of Second Chance Bikes, and just finished up a dual master's program at the College of Charleston. But Second Chance Bikes is a great organization, and we kind of approach sustainability from a very kind of intersectional point, I would say. It's not our main focus, but it's something we integrate into our practices.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves and for joining us this morning. We're so glad you're here, and we will go ahead with some questions that were submitted at registration. So the first question is, what made you interested in participating in this event?
Well, to be honest, I was kind of surprised and extremely honored to be asked to act as a panelist. And I'm extremely excited about this opportunity because I love talking about sustainability. That's why I started the club. I really wanted to create kind of an open community for students to be able to talk about thrifting and secondhand shopping and kind of erase the stigmas that come along with it. And I also love collaborating with people and hearing what other sustainability figures have to say. And I think it's a great way for everyone to grow. So I think it's a great thing. I'm happy to be a part of it.
I can go. So I was really excited also to be asked by one of our youth volunteers at the aquarium to participate as a panelist today. And I just think, you know, coming from that education standpoint, it's so important. You know, people don't usually care about what they don't know about. So, you know, spreading the word on what's actually going on. You know, the aquarium has a unique perspective of what's happening with, you know, marine life in Charleston and globally. And so spreading the word on that is really important because that's where it all starts. So making sure that we're aware of those issues and then what can we do about them. So really focusing on that conservation piece as well. So how can we put into action those sustainability, you know, practices that it might be not so sustainable that are really impacting our marine environment and also just our environment in general.
I was very surprised to be asked to participate in this and very happy. I always like talking to people in Charleston, and I feel like I've sort of become an honorary Charleston citizen over the last couple of years, spending so much time there and so much thought thinking about that place, just putting my mind there. But I think you know, I've been talking over the last couple of months to the city council and to the mayor and others kind of higher up in the city, but I think it's actually more important for us to talk together, for y'all to talk together and begin to think about, you know, what is most inspiring to you. And I hope that's something that I can share maybe today is, I think the way that we really make the most impact is by learning about things that inspire us and identifying those inspirations. And then it becomes really easy. You don't have to work as hard at finding the energy within yourself to make change. And so I'm really inspired just thinking about Charleston and its important place in this conversation about larger kinds of sustainability and response to climate change and these big problems. Those are the things that really drive me, and I love talking about those too. And with Charleston leading this charge really across the nation. It's an important thing for everybody to be aware of there and to contribute to.
Yeah, I have to, you know, agree with with Andy. I think that Charleston is really uniquely positioned to approach the issue of sustainability from multiple multiple junctures. And that was something that I was thinking of when I was asked, because I was also a little surprised to be asked to be on this panel, especially given my work now. When you say bicycles, even though they are very much the most sustainable form of transportation, they are not often appreciated for that aspect. I feel like so I was excited that people were thinking kind of about sustainability in from these multiple perspectives, because I think it will need to be a team effort to create really sustainable sustainability for Charleston for the future.
Okay, great. Those are great answers. So for our second question, they asked, how can students get involved and what actions make the biggest difference to reduce our own impact on climate change?
So one of the ways I've been trying to get students involved, at least in the College of Charleston campus, is, which is kind of hard right now because of COVID, but hopefully next fall, we can do this. We'd love to have clothing swaps. I think it's really important. People go thrifting all the time, but you kind of forget, it's like, well, maybe you like your friend's dress and you can swap for a dress that you don't wear anymore. Just kind of being creative about clothing, and also holding clothing drives. We just had one last Saturday and we donated all the clothing we collected to Our Lady of Mercy in Johns Island. And like I said, going thrifting, shopping secondhand. A tip that I always give people, because I know it's intimidating, or some people feel it's intimidating, is go on Pinterest, see the trends that you like, or what's, if you like 70s or 60s, or you just like what's coming out now, go into the store and look for that specific item. You don't get so overwhelmed with everything that's in front of you. And also inspire others to shop sustainably, but don't shame them. I mean, I think what can happen in at least fashion sustainability world, I've realized it can be really positive or it can be kind of negative. And I think the key to keeping growth and wanting people to keep learning is to keep it positive and to never have it be negative. And the last part is to be creative. I don't think there's any direct path to making a difference. I think small changes make a difference, and just collaborating with your friends and getting people involved and just making it a fun thing. It doesn't have to be put as much pressure on yourselves.
I really have to agree with Maddie on a lot of those points. The shaming of sustainability is not an effective way to encourage people to change. However, when it's a positive and fun thing, people, of course, are so much more likely to participate. When it comes to using bikes for transportation, I mean, biking is inherently fun, so that makes it a little easier to get people on bikes. But in the past, I have logged my miles, or been like, I commute, every day on my bike. And I think rather than focusing on those things, just encouraging people and giving them that positive feedback when they're like, hi, I rode my bike here today, or something like that, really taking the time to be like, that's really cool. Thank you for making that choice with your transportation. And also I would love to see our local government find ways to reward and encourage cyclists for making that sustainable transportation choice. I think that I think it can be intimidating to ride your bike for transportation, regardless of the infrastructure, but better infrastructure definitely increases people riding for transportation.
So I'll go next. There's a lot of different ways that you can get involved in the aquarium. As youth, we have a lot of different youth programs. I know Molly has participated in some of those. So we have a Teen Science Cafe series that just started, where we have a different scientist that speaks on a different conservation-minded topic every single month. So you can find that out on our website. And we also have a shadow program where you can come in and see what it's like to work at the aquarium. You know, what sorts of jobs are there in conservation and education. And then we also have youth volunteer programs, as well as our high school intern program, where you get to help, you know, be a part of that mission of educating our public on conservation and sustainability issues, but also participate in some of the field work and conservation work that we do. You know, like Mayor Tecklenburg said, the aquarium does a lot more than a lot of people realize when it comes to like research and field work and those conservation projects. So, you know, for example, we get our high school students involved in building oyster reefs to ensure like sustainable oyster populations in the future, which is a really cool thing. So, you know, just volunteering, something as simple as volunteering your time at the aquarium can definitely go a long way with education and conservation. But little things that you can do in your daily life. You know, we talk a lot about plastic pollution at the aquarium because that's something that we're seeing an exponential increase in with our number of sea turtle patients that come in to our Sea Turtle Care Center that have ingested little pieces of plastic, sometimes big pieces of plastic. Since we're, you know, that animal is kind of a segue or a gateway into telling us what's going on in the environment. And that is that, you know, plastic pollution is a really big problem. So thinking about, you know, as a consumer, what you're buying every single day, that's single-use plastic, that, you know, that plastic that you're just going to throw away or recycle, which sometimes doesn't even get recycled. So just kind of thinking as a consumer, you know, what you're buying, what you're voting with your dollar, the sustainable, you know, packaging options, and trying to limit single-use plastics is definitely something that we focus on at the aquarium, and a pretty simple thing that you can do in your everyday life.
I think just to really echo a couple of things that Maddie said that I really agree with, a couple of just terms: creativity, positivity, collaboration. I think that's something that unifies all of us. I mean, just four of us on this panel probably couldn't be more different in terms of our interests and kind of professional focus, but this issue unifies us. And those in that way forward, you know, working together with a sense of optimism is so important. I think it can be a little intimidating, the idea of sustainability and the problems that we face, but you see from the four of us how by finding the thing that most interests you and that resonates most deeply with you, you can make an impact. And so I think that's really important, just to try to educate yourself onto all of the issues out there and really listen to what is most meaningful for you. But for me, and a way that you can get involved in kind of the architecture and planning world, there's a lot of ways, and there's actually a really important effort going on in Charleston right now, an update to the city's comprehensive plan, the whole city plan. It's called the City Plan 2020. And there are public meetings and public engagement efforts going on literally this week and this month. And the city's working on gathering input for that plan. And that's open participation, and y'all should definitely participate. You can make comments, you can listen to presentations, you can learn about the land and the water and the areas around where you're living, where you might live across Charleston. It's a really important moment to give feedback to the direction of the city. And these kind of efforts are going on all the time at the city through the city planning department in particular. They're always looking for feedback. So I would really encourage you all to be engaged that way.
Cool. I think I missed part of the question. I think I got a little distracted earlier. As far as how folks can participate with Second Chance Bikes, we have 3 volunteering sessions, usually every week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 to 8, and then Saturday mornings. We are just finishing up fixing a bunch of kids' bikes for a kids' bike giveaway later on in May, towards the end of the month. But we always have these volunteer work days. You can come as groups, you can come as individuals. It's really fun. You can meet new people and learn new things. You can learn how to use tools. You can learn how to fix bikes and how to take care of them so that they last longer. And yeah, it's fun. We're up in North Charleston, so it's relatively central and somewhat easy to get to.
So our next question someone submitted into the chat. How can we promote sustainability and community service within our schools and our peers?
Can start. I think that it's, really important to get involved in your student council, of course, at school, and also, forming those clubs and organizations, just like Maddie did at College of Charleston, to promote sustainability topics and the awareness there. So there's different little things that you can do like that. There's also, I'm blanking. There's also ways that you can, start recycling in your school and different things like that. So kind of identifying those problems that are unique to your school, and then coming up with some sort of planning committee or group organization that you can start within your school, as a part of student council, or maybe just getting some teachers involved that can help you put those plans into action in your school. So even something as simple as recycling, I know a lot of the schools in Charleston, might not even do that. So something as simple as that could go a long way.
Yeah, like what Ashley said, I was never part of any clubs in high school. I was in sports, and I never was really interested in clubs, but because of COVID, I really wanted to find a way to connect people, because as college students, and I'm sure high school students, we're all on Zoom, sitting at our desks like this all day. So I really wanted to create something for people to look forward to. And it was intimidating getting that process going, writing a club constitution, which I've never written before. But it's really just kind of getting over those first couple hurdles that might be intimidating you to kind of get everybody together. And then once you're there, it's all right in front of you. You can figure it out.
I think, the question of what we can do as individuals always comes up. We talk about sustainability, and it's really, a lot of times it seems like the actions that we take don't have enough impact. We can recycle something, we can ride a bike, but are we really contributing? And I think the answer is yes. And we're contributing through leadership and through demonstrating. And I think that can be one of the scariest things about change, is that we need leaders, and we need to follow each other, and we need to educate each other. And so I think, listening to Maddie's making a lot of good points today when she's talking about starting something new and, taking a risk, doing something she's never done before. I think that's really important at every scale. So whether that's a personal action you take, or encouraging your friends, or just sharing some cool thing you learn about with one another. All of you and all of us are going places in our lives, and we have the relationships that we build with one another as we grow up. And those are the relationships that we rely on, our social networks and our peers and our friends to make change. That's how we do it together. So I think showing a sense of leadership amongst the people that you care about and the people that you're close to is a really good way to start and practice.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think when it comes to sustainability, we all have to be ready to lead. And the sooner the future leaders get comfortable leading and creating things like club constitutions, all of that kind of stuff, I don't want to say like the paperwork, but like the heavy lifting that you don't see, the logistical stuff, is just as important as the, riding your bike, recycling, things like that. And the sooner we get better at doing it together, I think that you set yourself up for success, and your community's up for success if you start getting comfortable with that at a younger age. And I also think while leadership and starting initiatives and things is important, something I think could happen more in the sustainability community or realm is looking and seeing who's already doing what, and then collaborating and supporting their efforts as well. I think that can help foster a lot of positive change. I know that there's kind of high levels of burnout when it comes to organizing and sustainability implementation. So finding ways to support existing efforts, I think could be really, really good, really positive for everyone involved.
Thank you so much. Now for the next question, how can volunteering be sustainable? How can we combine service with sustainability?
So for this one, some of the things I was thinking about is I've been talking about thrifting a lot, but the thing about thrifting is you are obviously taking clothes, and I know there's a bunch of clothes in our closets that we never wear. And I think there's this, I heard this rule, it's like if you haven't worn it in a year, or if it doesn't bring you happiness, get rid of it. And if you think of it in a way as like, okay, this might not make me happy and I don't wear it anymore, but it could make someone else happy, kind of thinking in a more conscious way, and how what you have can benefit someone else in a positive way.
I kind of mentioned a couple of ways that you can volunteer, with the aquarium, but really just volunteering in acts of service, just finding those organizations, like the four of us work at four very different places, but we're all, coming at sustainability from a different angle. So identifying those people in your community that are already doing it, like Sylvie said, and then volunteering your time. Most of us, or most organizations that focus on sustainability, will take volunteers in some form or another. So, I know at the aquarium we partner with Charleston Surfrider, Charleston Waterkeeper to put on some litter sweeps, and you can go on our Facebook calendar and see when we're doing those litter sweeps, and you can volunteer one time, you can volunteer every time for that. So it doesn't have to be something that's a huge commitment. It could be, hey, let's go out on a Saturday and even organize your own litter sweep. It doesn't have to be in partnership with somebody that's already doing it. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can volunteer on your own or with the organization that's already doing it.
Yeah, I think the, something to keep in mind when you're volunteering or you're doing some type of active service, people who are organizing those things are doing it professionally, and that's their every day. And so I think that's really something for me to think about is, serving and volunteering is really more of a lifestyle. I think that's something that we should think about in everything we do. It's not just something to do on the weekends or the evenings, even though that's really important to get connected. I feel like my perspective on this is a little bit longer term because of the problems and the city planning aspect that we work on. So volunteering has less of a tangible outcome. It's more of contributing your perspective at some of these public engagement meetings or community planning meetings. Those things don't feel so tangible when you do them, but people really are listening and receiving that feedback. And sometimes the things that you think aren't that important about your day-to-day life or your habits or your observations in the environment where you live end up making a real difference. So sometimes volunteering can just be observing and paying attention to what's going on around you and sharing what you see.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the next.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. No.
I was just going to echo what Andy was saying. It's so important to expand our understanding of volunteering as not just this isolated event, but as, like you said, like a lifestyle, and kind of seeing it where it falls in the bigger picture of like civic service and being an active participating member of your community. After finishing up a public administration degree, I know that it's what he's saying is true, that when people participate in decision making, especially at the local level of government, it can really shape the outcomes. But sometimes that can be a little hard to see until the very kind of end product.
Okay, so the next question is, do you think COVID has impacted sustainability for better or worse in the past year? And are there any lessons we can learn from this tie to help our Charleston community?
So I would definitely say with my experience, it was COVID positively impacted because without COVID, I probably wouldn't have started the club. I definitely wouldn't have. And I think with COVID, on the college campus, there's a lot of freshmen that don't have much to do, and all their classes are in dorms and they're in a little shoebox. And sometimes like a natural dye workshop at 6 p.m. is something that they can look forward to. And that really makes me happy. And hearing them come and say like, oh, I'm so happy that this is happening. And, I know some girls who like don't even leave their dorms because they don't know what to do. And it really, on top of the sustainability factor, I really just wanted to create a sense of community, not for people not to feel like they're alone. And we can all talk about a passion, or there's people in the club that are very knowledgeable about thrifting and sustainable fashion and what not to buy. But then there's a lot of people that are new and just want to come to learn. And I really think before COVID, people might have been a little bit more apprehensive. And I think because of COVID, people are really looking for kind of just more of a sense of community, and people want to be together more. And that's something I'm really thankful for.
When I think about COVID, there's so many different angles. There's some positives, obviously some negatives. The first thing I think of are the masks on the ground that I see when I'm walking around Charleston. So it's kind of an obvious one. Unfortunately, it's something that we need, and we hand out those disposable masks at the aquarium to keep everybody safe. But then I'm walking to my car and I see 10 of them on the ground. I think that's kind of an obvious negative impact, is those disposable masks that people aren't properly disposing of, or, not using your reusable mask. But also, for me, having that pause and that time out was a chance for me to connect more with nature too. So finding those isolated moments where you're not in a group, but you can go out, and do a litter sweep on your own, or, just in your neighborhood, going out and exploring nature and just having that time to pause and connect with your surroundings, I think has been a really positive thing for me, at least. And then, I've read a bunch of different articles about animals and how in some areas of the world, they were actually thriving because of the lack of ecotourism that was happening. So a lot of the, big groups, commercial groups that go out and find animals in the wild, they weren't happening as much during COVID, and we were seeing positive impacts from that. So there's a lot of different positives and negatives that I kind of think of from a few different angles with COVID.
Yeah, I agree. There's has been different, positive pros and cons, right? Especially during kind of during lockdown, I saw so many more people on bikes. There was so much less traffic. I'm sure all of y'all saw or read the articles about how emissions had been temporarily reduced very drastically, which is better for our health, but great for the environment. I think that telecommuting hopefully will continue to be a feasible option now that people have seen that it works. And I think that has the ability to give people more time, and also reduce the number of cars on the road, which is better for the environment and also better for cyclists, better for riding when there's less traffic. And there was definitely a peak in interest in bikes, and we sell used bikes that we fix up, and then we also have some programs where we give away bikes to people who need them through partner organizations. And both of those programs got a lot busier. We started to receive more requests, and we also have sold a lot of used bikes, especially because a lot of the bike shops are out of bikes. They don't have bikes to sell. So the fact that we are taking used ones and fixing them up and making them available is great, because we can do it for not very much money, but also because we're filling a demand and a need that people have that couldn't be filled by other bike shops. So it's been mostly positive for us. I think overall it's been nice to finally get volunteering back up again. It was a lot of work for just a few people without volunteers for a minute there.
To take a totally to take a totally macro view of COVID, it's been a major global disaster, and disasters create trauma for people and create real impacts psychologically within families and communities. And that's something that takes a long time to recover from. And it brings to mind for me, coming from New Orleans immediately, Hurricane Katrina. And I wasn't there for that event, but I was there right after. And if you remember all the huge flooding that happened there, the huge disruptive, life-altering disaster for that city. And a common pattern that happens after disasters is that people want to revert to exactly the way things were before. And it's really hard to create big change after a major disaster because of that trauma. People are trying to heal and return to what they knew. And so I think that's going to be the biggest challenge coming out of COVID, is that we all want to go back to the way we lived before, which wasn't necessarily sustainable or sustainable in the best way. And but we feel it, you feel you want to go back to the way things were. And that's just a really hard human emotion to overcome. So what we've really got to think about, I think, is not to take advantage of a disaster, but to understand the trends before, because the disaster accelerates those trends for better or worse. And we have to lay the groundwork now as we move forward for that trajectory towards sustainability and towards positive change, and that regenerating our environment and ourselves coming out of this, and get on that steady course, because it's real hard to shift after something traumatic happens, especially at this scale.
And if I could just add one more thing, with COVID, we also implemented with the Sustainable Fashion Instagram a thing called Takeover Tuesdays, where we spotlight local sustainable brands that have definitely been impacted by the COVID pandemic. And we also spotlight student brands, which is really incredible to see them kind of take over our Instagram and show their process and what they're doing, and seeing their followers rise, and just kind of seeing their engagement get bigger, and just kind of being able to uplift some local sustainable brands in the community has been a positive response from COVID.
Okay, so our next question is, what is the best advice you have for being conscious about our impact on the environment?
So I would say something that has helped me a lot is think about every product's journey and what it took to get there, whether it be a piece of clothing, an apple, anything that has been made. They really think about all the hands it's passed through, the time, the energy, the money that, I was just talking to my mom the other day, and we were talking about how it was buy one, get one lettuce. And she was like, I don't need the second lettuce head. It's just going to go bad in my fridge, but it's free. So I feel like I'm not really doing anything. Then we had this conversation. It's like, well, you're throwing it out. And that was a lot of time, energy, and money that was put into that lettuce head that she got because it was free. And I think we as consumers, we want to consume, and that is fine, but we just need to be more conscious and responsible about what we are consuming. And like Ashley said, vote with your dollar. It's really true. And just make sure that where you're putting your dollar, it's something that you believe in. And it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but just making that conscious effort really helps.
Maddie, I think that was super well said. Can I say ditto? I'm just kidding. But yes, it's hard to think about those things and the item's journey that you're buying, because you can buy it in 1 second, right? It's at our fingertips, that fast fashion, or, whether it is that vegetable or, from the store, literally everything that we buy has an impact on the environment one way or another. And a lot of times we have no idea how that apple made it to the grocery store, or what kinds of things, impact it had on the environment along its journey. So doing the research on, what you're buying, and then also just trying to buy as local as possible is kind of one of the things that I've been able to wrap my head around, because it is so difficult to get over, or it's so easy to get overwhelmed with, gosh, there's so many things I need in my life, and I have a child now, I've got a baby on the way, and it's diapers and all these things that might not be the most sustainable thing, but what can I do? What can I wrap my head around that is something that, is easy to do, and there are things that will make a big impact that are really simple. So just trying to think of, where everything came from, and what are some easy ways that you can minimize that impact on what you're buying, and local is usually a good way to start.
I think the mindfulness conversation is really important, just being aware of all the things that we encounter. And for me, it maybe not so directly relevant to day-to-day life, but there's an architectural idea called cradle to cradle. Instead of cradle to grave, you think about somebody's born and then they die, and that's this life cycle. But it's actually circular. It starts again. And so all the things that we touch and use are going somewhere. They're going to end up someplace in our lifetimes or long after. And it's important to think about what that looks like and plan for where they go, and try to use less of the things that don't have a future use. So it's not only being mindful of the things we encounter and where they came from, but thinking about where they're going.
Okay, and I think this will be our last question, but kind of taking into account some of the points y'all talked about, what ways can we be sustainable on a budget, kind of keep sustainability accessible for different socioeconomic classes?
So I feel really repetitive, but thrifting, secondhand shopping is really easy way to be sustainable on a budget. I mean, I'm a college student. I would love to spend a lot of money online and sustainable, ethical shops, but I don't have that money. So I love going to thrift stores, and I'm a creative person. And if you are a creative person as well, it's fun. You can make it fun. And I'm trying to think, yeah, affordability, and just, I don't think I can go beyond thrifting right now. I'm just going to say that's a good way and leave it there.
I want to say I'm a big thrifter, Maddie. We'll connect after this. But I think, it does have a stigma to be eco-conscious. You have to have a lot of money to buy, Patagonia and the big name brands that we know are sustainable. But that's not necessarily true. There are a lot of little things that you can do. And it might be a bigger cost up front, but then it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. So something that I just switched to is using these little tablets that you can drop in a glass container to make soap for hand soap. And I bought, so many of these little tablets, and they come in sustainable packaging for $10. And I use the same glass jar over and over, as opposed to paying $5 for a little plastic container for hand soap. And then I do the same thing for my countertop spray. I just have a glass bottle that I'll just put a little bit of this concentrate. And so there's little things like that where, you might have to buy the glass bottle. You might have to buy a lot of those little fizzy things, but then it'll save me so much money in the long run. So there are ways definitely that you can be sustainable and still save money.
Personal lives is important, and then to, whenever we can, to bring them into our work lives too. Sometimes it's a couple extra bucks to buy the sustainable choice, but when we do have the budget for it, or when it's someone else's budget, to make that choice when it's possible, I think is great. And also just, along with being mindful of being really using our things with care and being aware of, I guess I'm thinking of bikes in this aspect, but so many times people will well, I need a new bike. And I'm well, if you had just taken care of it and maintained it and learned a couple things and spent a little bit of time on that, it would last for 10 or 20 years rather than a year. And it's the same thing, something that's nicer better made might cost more upfront, but like Ashley said, it'll last longer.
And I think building on Sylvie's point there are costs that we spend, there are things that we spend money on that are special, and there are things that we spend money on that are routine. And both of those concepts can be sustainable. I think the things that we, like the lettuce example, or, the kinds of things we're spending money on all the time, we can shift those resources towards something that's a little more sustainable with a little more thought, and that doesn't take any extra money. It's things that we're buying anyway. But I think a bigger point here is what is the difference between a personal and a societal cost? Maybe I'll wrap up with this point, but not to get too abstract on y'all, but there are people around us in our society who don't have the luxury of thinking about sustainability. They've got more important, more pressing problems in their lives. People who are more disadvantaged don't have that luxury. In a way, sustainability is luxury. And that's the role of us as a society and as a city to address. And so it's important to raise these issues to the mayor and to others, and to advocate for these kinds of policies and things that we do together as a society to support one another. And that's really where that educating yourself about civics, like Sylvie mentioned civics earlier, the importance of working together and collaborating on these things, because ultimately that's the way that we make change, is together as a society.
Okay, so thank you so much to all of our panelists for their time. We'll conclude the session now, and for the panel and the attendees, thank you so much for all the great questions.
Yes, thank you all so much. I would like everyone to look in the chat, because there's a document that the mayor wanted to share with everyone. I think Jennifer is sending it.
Okay, so now we will be switching gears and moving into the last portion of our summit, which is the interactive breakout room. All attendees will be directed to join their breakout room. We ask that you remain on the Zoom and be active and attentive during this next portion. Thank you again to all of our panelists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. It was really great meeting y'all.
Good morning, everyone. I am Moyu Yamaguchi, and I am a representative with the NYC Mayor's Youth Commission. During this breakout session, we ask that you actively participate in order to ensure everyone gets the most out of the opportunity. We'll be debriefing from the panelist discussion and determining our own carbon footprint with a simulation, and engaging in an interactive reflection portion for prizes. We will go ahead and get started by talking about the panelist discussion and how we view sustainability now that we have heard from sustainability leaders. With that being said, we'll be putting a link into the chat box right now. Please click on that link and let us know what sustainability means to you now that we have heard from several leaders in the field. We'll give you a few minutes to click on the link and input your answers.
answers to the question, and the results will be shown at the end of the summit. If anyone would like to mention what word they put in, please do so, and we would love to hear your response.
Wait, Moyu, can we see will you share the screen so we can see the like cloud, word cloud?
Miss Jennifer will show that at the end of the summit.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll share my word. I put in longevity because I feel like sustainability is like being able to last for, an extended period of time. So that was my word.
Yes, I also think longevity would apply well with sustainability. My word, what I would put is, I believe, integrity. Integrity for the earth that we live in now, and if once we learn what we have to do, then if we try to fit those things that would help conserve earth, then if enough people do it, then we'll be able to keep keep the keep our place that we're living in as a place that we can continue to live in, as in what Anne said with longevity. Does anyone want to maybe put their word into the chat so that we can see?
I said mindfulness.
Mindfulness. And that is, would you like to explain your reasons behind that?
Well, you have to be mindful to be sustainable. You have to acknowledge that there's a lot of energy waste. You have to be mindful of that to be able to take action for it.
Yes, I agree with your statement. I am still trying to learn more about being sustainable. And once I am able to have more information about that, then I can maybe we can all contribute by being. And in the chat box, I see many words such as protection, collaboration, and conservation, which I see a lot. Balance, urgent, consistency, yes. We do have to be consistent in our efforts for it to make an effect. But once we start on our path towards that, then maybe it would be easier to keep that consistency. Believe. If you all go into the chat box, you can see everyone else's contributions, their words. So we thank everyone for giving such great input and discussing the panelist portion. We will now be moving on to our next activity, which will be an interactive carbon footprint simulation. This will help us all to determine what our carbon footprint looks like and what we can do to lower our footprint. I will put in the link into the chat.
So if everyone can, we invite everyone to play along with their own device. And I will also be screen sharing so that we can go through it together. So hopefully, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So when we take the first step, how often do you eat animal-based products? So we probably all have different answers, which is why we invite you to follow along with your own device. And I will be answering these with my answers. And there are some questions where you might not have the accurate answer, but if you can just estimate how much you use in each answer. So how often do you eat animal-based products? Housing type best describes your home. I live in a freestanding with running water. What material is my house constructed with? I believe it is by brick and concrete. How many people live in your household? I have a family of 4. And what size? This is one of those questions where it is hard to find the correct answer. So just estimate. And there's an image to go along with it to see.
The Sunrise movement that Eli is involved in at SOA?
Yeah, I'm one of the hub leaders with Eli.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. That's awesome. And I know that they are working with Levi Wagner, who goes to West Ashley High School. I don't know if you know him,
Yeah.
but just recently they told me that they were teaming up to do a litter sweep downtown or somewhere. Are you going to be a part of that too, Emma?
Yeah, the one downtown I think is postponed because of the weather being today. But yes, we are working on doing a series of litter sweeps. So we're kind of like doing this like continuing Earth Day kind of thing and doing a series of litter sweeps and like teaming up with different climate groups across Charleston to just kind of like spread the message of different groups and also get out in the community and clean up litter.
That's really cool. Yeah, when they told me about that, I try to share it with all of our teens at the aquarium because you guys are doing such great stuff. You're way ahead of the game being in high school and already making these kinds of impacts. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, with Magnet, I also do beach sweeps. We actually have one tomorrow. That's really funny. Yeah.
Great job, Molly. Anybody else?
So I think what we want to do next is we have a carbon footprint calculator sort of simulator that we can all play along with to sort of see based off our own individual activities in our daily lives how our carbon footprint sort of what that shakes out to be. And so I'll go ahead and quickly paste that in the link, and then we can all or paste that link in the chat, and then we can all do that and discuss our own individual results.
I did this when I was in high school. Hopefully it's a little different now. It was shocking.
And if you guys would like, I can sort of share my screen as I'm going through it, and if you guys want to see like what it looks like on my end, or if you have any questions like that.
Probably pretty standard. Anybody else?
My house is also wood.
Good to know, good to know. Okay, so we'll go with wood. How many people live in your household? If y'all want to just put this one in the chat, you can totally do that. Personally, I have 4 people in my household. 5, 3. Oh, we got a good mix. 4, 5, 3. It seems like maybe 4 is the average, 4 or 5 maybe. Let's see. Y'all want to do 4 or 5? We can stick with 4. I feel like that's pretty standard, unless someone has something else. 4? Okay. What is the size of your home? Tiny to huge. It's an interesting spectrum. I do not know exactly how big my house is, but I think it is on the, ooh, I like how huge is like this whole side of the spectrum. Mine might be, I think mine's like 1,500 maybe. I might be totally making that up. Anyone have an idea? Is there a house generally tiny or huge? Or somewhere in the middle? see a chat coming in. Medium to large, somewhere in the middle. Yeah, let's see. So medium to large is all the way over here. Maybe let's say, we'll say somewhere around there. Because I'm not expecting that we're all living in huge houses. Do you have electricity? I'm guessing yes, is probably most likely. How energy efficient is your home? Okay, let's look at that. Very inefficient, poor insulation, few LED lamps, heating and cooling systems used often. Below average, inefficient lighting, standard appliances. Average, modern appliances, climate controls. Above average, well insulated, efficient lighting and appliances, careful use. And then we've got efficiency centered, passive heating or cooling, advanced temperature control and ventilation, and low electricity use. I think mine might be above average because we are pretty careful with stuff, but it might also be average as well. We do have climate controls. What would y'all say? Average, above average? Y'all have super energy efficient houses? Average? Nice. Yeah, let's stick with average. What percentage of your home's electricity comes from renewable sources, either directly or through purchased green power? I actually have no idea. I don't know where my energy comes from. That might be a good question to ask about if y'all don't know either. Like ask your parents, kind of find out where it comes from. I think at least a little bit of ours does, but probably not that much if I'm honest. What do we think? 25%, less, more? If y'all have solar panels or something. I'm not sure if that energy goes directly to your house or to a different plant, but let's see, 25 to 30%. That's probably good. Compared to your neighbors, how much trash do you generate? I'm not really looking at my neighbor's trash, but I would say we try not to create a huge amount of it. Like with clothes and stuff, we usually donate them rather than throwing them away. Same amount. More, much more. Don't generate a lot of trash, same amount. So yeah, maybe let's do same, but on the lower end of it. How far do you travel by car, motorcycle each week? 0 to very far. Oh, I don't totally know this. I know I go to school and back with my car, but I do not have a motorcycle. What do we think? 0, very far, somewhere down here. 200 miles a week. See that? I'm guessing we're somewhere around here. What do we think? Is 200 miles accurate? Less than that? Similar to that? Okay, we'll go with 200.
With Lucas, would you like to voice that opinion or? For the link that I just pasted into the chat, it's an additional opportunity for you to be, for you to do, and it's an opportunity to earn another volunteer hour if you complete the activity and submit it by Monday, April the 26th at 5 p.m. to Miss Jennifer Gorham at to her email, which I would also be pasting into the chat. So basically, the activity is finding, if you open it up, there are directions to color in a footprint to see how big your carbon footprint is relative to everybody else. And it is another way to find how you as an individual affect the sustainability to Earth. If you would like to continue the discussion that we were doing, we can continue to do so. I see from Lucas that he agrees that the corporations are the largest player in the bad sustainability, but he does believe that it is us as consumers to take action when we will be able to change the corporations because they will need to adapt to the consumers' new mindsets. So if we all work together and collaborate, which I have seen in the words for the activity, the first activity that we did, we'll be able to change the amount of earths that we would have to consume. And we have a review game on Kahoot that we would like to do. I have mentioned that the winner will get a few prizes, which I will now say. They are the NYC tote, the NYC notebook, reusable straw, and the YBC reusable water bottle, YBC mask, and YBC shirt. I will screen share the Kahoot pin code and would like for all of you to join in. Okay. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Has everyone joined? Is there anyone who had not joined yet? Okay. So I will start the game. Who was not a panelist today? Okay, yes, the answer was Cindy Tuft. And it seems that Anne is on the top currently. In order to be more sustainable, you can do which of the following? Yes, everyone got it right. It's unplug appliances that are not in use. True or false question. Sustainability only refers
And there is, if you guys want to earn any sort of volunteer hours, there is another opportunity. I just pasted the link in the chat. You can complete, if you complete that by Monday, by Monday at 5 p.m. and you can email that to Jennifer Gorham at this email right here, and that'll earn you another additional community service hour. If that's one of the things your school requires or something, because I know those that's a requirement in my school, and we know they've been very hard to come by this year.
Can I ask you guys a question? What is something, like, what's the biggest thing that you took away that you didn't know already from the discussion today?
I didn't really know about all the projects that are going on to try to like help with our carbon footprint and how the city of Charleston is trying to make that less, and the bike pathway. I thought that was really interesting on how they're trying to expand that and create a new method of transportation to help with that and really taking action.
I agree with all the transportation, like Sylvie and her like refixing bikes, and I didn't know that that was in Charleston, so that's a really cool resource. And just with the footprint calculator, how much I actually use on gas and driving, and maybe how I could reduce that is something to think about.
It might be hard for y'all to get a perspective on where Charleston sort of falls. I saw that was one of the earlier questions that was submitted that we didn't really talk about, is how does Charleston compare to other places, and how does South Carolina compare to other places? At least from a flooding standpoint. Well, let me take a half step back. There's a sustainability question, carbon footprint, kind of global contribution to this global problem, but some level of adaptation that has to happen anyway, just of the change that's baked into the system, you know, the change that's going to come no matter what we do at this point. And for that, on that aspect, Charleston is really leading, and you know, not to be too much of a supporter of the mayor, but I think he's done a really good job at trying to address these short-term and long-term problems at the same time. And Charleston is a little bit on the cutting edge. It's a place it's literally called the Low Country because it historically floods all the time, and that's getting worse. And so it's a place that's not sort of on the forefront of the change. A lot of other places will be able to learn from what's happening there. A lot of efforts underway, from climate adaptation, sea level rise strategy, Dutch dialogues, the Army Corps project around the peninsula, comprehensive plan, a lot of transportation planning around flooding and water. So there's just a lot going on, and you know, as y'all experience other places and kind of move outside of Charleston eventually in your lives, you kind of will take that with you. So I think it's
of this. Do I have a chat? No. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so I'll stop sharing for just a second. Okay. So now, all right, so to wrap up our interactive portion of the summit, we would like to reflect on what sustainability means to us. So we've compiled a quick Kahoot to reflect and also provide the winner with a prize. So the winner of the game will receive the following: an NYC tote, an NYC notebook, an NYC reusable straw, a YVC reusable water bottle, and a YVC mask and shirt. So we got a lot of YVC and NYC merch in there, just as a little incentive. But yeah, it's a pretty good Kahoot. So let me open it up. I think it's relatively short, but should be all good. So I will share my screen. This is the duplicate version, so hopefully it lets everyone join. Just wanted to make sure. I will host, and everyone can see this, right? Great. Okay. We'll do a classic. I miss this music, oh my gosh. See, most people have joined. Is anyone still trying to get on? See, chat. What's the code? Mine is frozen. Okay, well, let me put it in the chat. It will let me. What chat? Who was that I just sent that for? Madeline. Yeah, let me know if
points, especially with Depop and other like Etsy or eBay. I think those are both great points.
We have a few minutes before the other breakout sessions are finished. But I just have a couple of talking points I was wanting to throw out to you guys. Whatever room you're sitting in right now, take a look around and see how many appliances or electronics are plugged up, but you aren't actually using. That's something that we had talked about, and that's something that you can do to be more sustainable is unplug the items that you're not using. So if you have a phone and you have the charger plugged in, or you have multiple chargers and you're not using them, maybe that's something you could do is unplug for a little bit. or maybe even take and take stock of what is plugged up, and you may not even know what the cord belongs to. And so that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, so for me, I have a couple of lights and some chargers for my calculator.
I definitely agree that they did a great job.
Hey guys, I wanted to jump in for just a second. This is Jennifer. I had a conversation with another breakout group just now, and we were talking about looking around your room, and whatever room you're sitting in right now, look around your room and see how many appliances or electronics, whatever is plugged into your walls, and just think about, are you using what's plugged in? Your phone charger. How many phone chargers do you have? Do you have one? Do you have two? Do you have one in a different room? You can only use one charger at a time per phone. So think about what you are using that's plugged into the wall and how often you use it. Do you keep your charger plugged in all day, even though you only use it at night? Also something to think about. Do you leave the water running when you do the dishes? Do you turn it off? Do you turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth? Those are some things that, we kind of want you to think about leaving this session and leaving this summit, just being more conscious of what you're doing and what you have around you. And as Maddie had said, where did what you have in your hands come from? What steps did it take to get there? And so I heard you guys just finished your Kahoot. We will be jumping back into the closing session here shortly. So just hang tight and we'll all be together in the closing session shortly.
I agree with Becca, and I'm going to say that the bike paths was really interesting to me.
Hope?
Just in general of how sustainability can help us improve our environment in general.
Jesse?
I thought it was cool that you always hear like reduce, reuse, recycle, but they sort of talked about more what each thing meant and like how it can be applied.
Lillian?
I thought it was really interesting just talking about like how we can reduce, reuse, and recycle, like he was saying, but like with fashion and stuff.
Nice. I also realized we have like 3 Lilies in here and we might get moved out. So we might, head back real soon. But yeah, because I'm Lillian too. I just go by Lily. It's fun. And I think, Lillian Stackhouse, I might know your dad. I think he's my psych teacher.
Yeah, that's at Magnet. Yes, that's my dad.
That's so exciting. Okay, one thing you learned and then we'll move back.
That everything you do makes a difference, from like the soap that you use. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think we're gonna go back now, but thank you all for being here and for participating. It was great to hear for all of you. So let's head back now.
Thanks.
You're so welcome.
you.
Bye.
As we wait for everyone to join us, I think we almost have everyone back in the main session. I just wanted to thank the panelists who stayed in the breakout sessions. Thank you for continuing that dialogue and the conversation towards a more sustainable future for everyone. And so thank you for that. I also wanted to let everyone know that the mayor, and I had put this in the chat earlier, but he specifically wanted me to share out to everyone the climate action plan that he had mentioned. And so what I did is I put in the chat earlier the page, one page, specifically page 33, that he wanted to share with you guys. And that's something that everyone can start taking steps towards now. But I wanted to also give everyone the actual document. So I just put it in the chat. That is the 33-page document that he had mentioned at the very beginning, and he mentioned throughout his welcome. And I hope everyone takes a second to look at that, because he was really excited for me to share that page 33 with you guys. So please feel free to take a look at that. I think we have everyone back, so I'm going to turn it over to our representatives again. So Reagan and Herman, if you guys want to start the closing, and we will continue on.
Yes, ma'am. So, well, that concludes our summit for today. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope that everyone left with newfound knowledge under their belt. And also thank you for the panelists for staying during those breakout rooms. But for any attendees, you can always reach out to Ms. Jennifer if you want to join the NYC or YVC. And before you leave also, there's going to be a link in the chat box for feedback if you're willing to take that, and that would be much appreciated. And so that's all we have for today. Thank you so much. And if Ms. Jennifer, you want to add anything on top of that, and just wait for the chat right there. All right.
Yeah, so we have had a question come up. How do you get verification that you were at this summit if you need service hours? So hopefully in the breakout rooms, the leaders told you about the additional opportunity you can turn into me by Monday at 5 p.m. That is coloring your own carbon footprint via the quiz that they sent out. And so what we will do after this summit, I will take and email everyone. If you don't get an email from me, please respond or just shoot me an email and let me know. There's a few individuals who their email wasn't listed, or maybe it bounced back. So if you don't receive an email from me in the next 30 minutes, give me an email and let me know that you attended. I'm putting my email address in the chat box right now. So you might want to copy that and look for an email from that address within the next 30 minutes. I will include some details about how to get verification for attending this summit. And I will give you the link to the survey, which was just put in the chat box. And I will also attach the additional volunteer hour document that you can complete. So again, thank you for attending. This is recorded, so we will be putting this up on our website, and I will put that in the chat box right now as well. But if you don't have any questions, or if you're, good to go, then we enjoyed having you. And again, thank you to our representatives. Thank you to our, our mayor and our panelists and our leaders within the youth groups that we have. So thank you, and I look forward to having another summit in the future. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.